everybody. Thank you all for joining us tonight for our annual Chamber Talks event. It's great to see everybody, and in such a beautiful location as Little Bird. We really appreciate Angela rolling out the red carpet for us tonight. This is always a special place to be, so thanks for being here with us. Before we start, I do want to recognize a few folks and thank them for their support. We've got a few sponsors tonight who I want to point out. Our premier sponsor for this event is One Local Bank, formerly Norwood Bank. Thank you all for your support. We also have Mass General Brigham and Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane as sponsors tonight. Rockland Trust is also a sponsor. Thank you all for that. I want to recognize the chair of the board of the chamber for past 2 years now, Julie Malloy with Compass Real Estate. And thank our videographer Darren Carroll and our photographer Matt McKee. This should be a lot of fun tonight, very interesting. I'm expecting, we've got a great panel. We changed things up a little bit. If you've been to Chamber Talks in the past, it's a little bit different format, but I think it's going to be a little more interesting and definitely a lot more interactive. And you'll all have a chance to ask some questions later on in the program. And then we'll have some time after the program where you can chat with some of the presenters and have another drink, have a little more food. And you can even do that throughout the program too. So just don't be disruptive. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator MC for the evening, Rob Farini with McGowan Pro.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Tonight's the 4th annual. I found out tonight it was the 4th annual. I've been to most of them, but I didn't realize this was the 4th annual Chamber Talks. We're going to have a great talk tonight, and the theme of the night is what's next. And my name is Rob Farini. I'm going to be the moderator, and we have 5 great panelists with us tonight. First one here is Tracy. Tracy Burns is the Executive Director of Northeast Human Resources Association. It's the largest community of HR professionals in New England. And I think it has about 2,500. Next we have Stephen Clark. He's the president of the Mass Restaurant Association. Massachusetts has about 18,000 restaurants. And this is an interesting fact that I found on the website. One out of 10 employees in the state work directly or in support of industry. Next we have Adam. Adam is the owner of Castle Island Brewery. He's the chairman of the Brewers Association.
That works. President of the Massachusetts Brewers.
Okay, that's better.
Not international.
Not yet.
And since 2015, Castle Island has been cranking out award-winning beers right here in Norwood, just right on the other
right
side.
down the street.
Just right down the street.
Over the hill.
And is it true you started brewing in your kitchen in South Boston?
It is, and my stove has the scars to prove it.
Oh, really? Next we have Habib Madahi, owner of Morva Stone. They're located right here in the Space Center. The 2 co-founders, with their combined experience, one had a family with working with stone for over 60 years, and Habib is a designer and architect who came from a top design firm in Boston, and now one of the principals of the Stone Company. And last but not least is Sue Kelly. She's the general manager of Legacy Place. This is another interesting fact that I found out about Legacy.
Oh.
Opened in 2009,
Yep.
and only one of 2 major retailer locations that opened in the country in 2009, opened new in 2009. I think there was over a dozen new businesses opened this year, and
Yeah.
the same for next year.
Yep, and same for previous year.
Oh.
We're on a good track.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, thank you. So now I want to open it up so that everybody has a opportunity to introduce themselves and tell us a little about yourself and what you do other than my little introduction. So we'll start at that end.
Yeah, totally. Hi guys, it's my first panel. I have been the general manager for Legacy Place in Dedham. If you haven't been there, it's like literally right down the street. Since September of 2021. Prior to that, I was in New York, in the city, for about 16 years. But COVID had other plans. I moved back to Massachusetts. I was born and raised on the South Shore. Went to college at Wentworth. Thought I was going to have a crazy interior design business, but fell into retail kind of accidentally and never left. I've held numerous roles with J. Crew, Kate Spade New York, Rigby and Peller, which is a European lingerie brand, but moved back to Boston throughout COVID and stumbled upon WS Development and fell in love with the company, fell in love with the property that is Legacy Place, and excited for what we've been able to accomplish in the last 2 years, coming out of a pandemic, and just excited for what's to come as we keep going. But, yeah.
Great.
Thanks, and thanks for having me tonight. Excited.
Habib.
Hi everyone, my name is Habib. So first of all, thank you for inviting me, and it's an honor to be part of this amazing panel we have here. My background. Sorry, what is it? Oh, sure. So my background is in architecture. I went to Northeastern University, got my master's degree, and then I worked at BH+A, Baldwin Henry Archetype, a top architectural firm in Boston for almost 6 years. And then I always wanted to start my own business, and a good friend of mine, Meron, a seasoned entrepreneur, there was an opportunity, and then so we started More by Stone just right here, Building 10. I would love to invite all of you to come and visit us. And from there, so I was always interested in technology, and then as you know, as a first-time entrepreneur, I had to deal with a lot of difficulties, I would say. And then, so by using technology, I tried to tackle a lot of problems. And today, I'm going to share some of that with you.
Thank you.
So Adam Romano, founder and CEO of Castle Island. Rob already stole a lot of the highlights, but let me see what else I got for you. So I'm a recovering consultant. I drove a desk for a number of years out of school in a punishing career that was punishing for me and others, and then left that industry to go work at a brewery in New Hampshire as a 6-month professional mind-cleansing vacation. And here I am today making beer for a living. I got hooked. We make a product that makes life fun, makes people happy, and I can't really think of a better job. So I started Castle Island in 2015. We saw a lot of breweries opening up at the time that were focused on hype and exclusivity and quality, like really amazing beer, but sort of winifying beer in a certain way. And I've got nothing against wine. I drink plenty of it, but that's not what beer's about. Beer's supposed to be fun. Beer's supposed to be easy and accessible, and that's what we set out to do. We called it Castle Island because I'm a South Boston resident. Castle Island is steps from my home. I've been there for 15 years, and it is legitimately my happy place. But we set up here in the town of Norwood because this is a great town to do business in and a great town to make beer in. We're 8 years old this December. Saturday, December 9th, mark your calendars, 8th anniversary party. You're the first to hear about it here. And we expanded in the middle of the pandemic, which is the worst possible time to do this, to a second location in South Boston, about 2 miles from our namesake. It was a plan that we had put in motion in the fourth quarter of 2019. And then hit the brakes in March, and waited some more, and then finally opened in September 2021, 2 years ago. And that has been an unbelievable shot in the arm for our company. We've doubled the size of our company, doubled our reach, and we found some really nice growth since then. I'm psyched to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
We're just going to make Peter happy. He's just really driving the energy over here. I'm Stephen Clark. I'm the president and CEO of the Mass Restaurant Association. Thank you, Tom, for inviting me to come down and spend some time with you. I'm originally a West Roxbury kid, like every third person in Norwood, so we probably have crossover. I now live in Ashland. I went out the other way to a different highway. Actually worked in the legislature for a long time for the state senator that represented this area. I worked on the liquor licenses for Legacy Place when that happened, and about 14 years ago went over to the Mass Restaurant Association to run government affairs for them, and I became president and CEO about a year and a half ago. Ironically enough, when you talk about sliding doors, I came down to 2 positions when I left the legislature, the Restaurant Association, and then a different chamber, a slightly larger chamber world where I almost went into. So, everyone that we represent talks about the restaurant industry choosing them. I kind of happened to choose it, but I couldn't imagine advocating on behalf of a better industry. Restaurant owners are, the fabric of communities. They bring people together. They are the most charitable in giving back to their communities, and it's just a phenomenal industry to work on behalf of. And obviously, we went through the ringer for 3 years. It felt like 10 years, and what a time to be. And when we all write our book about the pandemic, there's certainly going to be some restaurant tales and all the battles we went through of trying to get the industry back open and all the restrictions that came from it. So incredible opportunity to work on behalf of a great industry. So, thank you for having me.
My turn?
It's your turn.
Okay. Tracy Burns, I'm the CEO of the Northeast Human Resources Association. As Rob mentioned, we have roughly 25, maybe a few fewer, members across the Northeast. We are in the Northeast, but predominantly our members are in the greater Boston area, mostly Massachusetts, a few around in Rhode Island, and a sprinkle in a couple of other New England states. We support HR professionals and in turn support workplaces. So our members range from smaller mom and pop organizations to TJX and Eversource and everybody in between. So we provide educational opportunities, community. I like to say that we take care of HR professionals and other leaders in the work environment so that they can do great work and create environments where people want to stick around. So similar to a lot of the folks on the panel, I appreciate you inviting me to be here. HR is not an easy place to be. I am a recovering HR professional. I spent 20 years in corporate HR, and for the last 13 years I've been at NARA as the CEO. We have 5 staff, including my colleague over here, Stacy Shipman, and we strive to just really do great work, meaning not on the brand like let's do great work, but infusing energy and community into organizations from an HR perspective, which has certainly been a challenge through the pandemic and post-pandemic. So that's my story. Happy to be here.
Great. So I'm glad to have all these people here with us, and the theme for tonight is really what's next. This is a good cross-section of industries, and I hope we can have a good conversation. I did propose some questions to them ahead of time, and I'm going to start off with Habib. Habib's going to be talking about AI. Now his company down the road here uses a lot of AI and machine learning to interact with your clients and your employees. Can you give us a few examples of what you're doing?
Yeah, I put together a presentation. I'm not sure if it's really small, but here are. Thank you.
Wow, slides? I didn't know we had to make a presentation. It's all downhill from here.
He's an overachiever.
I did not understand the assignment.
All right.
Don't worry, I don't have any slides.
Actually, it's fine. You can see. So this is an example of our salesperson. So we are a stone supplier. We go out and we visit fabricators, and our salesperson go out and visit between 5 to 10 fabricators per day, and he writes me a report every day. So I was frustrated with the fact that, what do I do with this? Like, I need to go through all of them, it takes time, this and that. And I started to create these automations, and that's one of them. So when he sent me an email, the report, so that automatically goes to GPT, which is ChatGPT. I'm sure all of you are using it by now. And he put it in a table for me. So it separates the name of the fabricator and then the report, and then give it a score that how was that interaction. And also it separates what fabricators need, like the specific colors or stone maybe they were interested in. So they are all separated, and then so with a glance I just take a look and I'm like, what a good date. So that's one thing. This is another. So my staff keep asking me question about like what's the price of this? What's the name of that store? So I try to bring everything and create a knowledge base of the business, and then create a chatbot that they can now interact with the database, our database. So here is a simple example of a chatbot that works with text. Another challenge that we had is that you cannot expect your employees to go and install Slack or any extra step. You need to use either text or WhatsApp Max. That's all you can expect. So that's why I'm using text here. And so the question I believe is that what's the price of California Gold? And as you can see, just it tells you what's the price of California Gold per square foot, per slab, and also, well, I'm asking if in, for instance, California Gold is group 4 pricing, is there any other slab in that group? So we'll see that it's asking that. Here, yeah, it's again asking, okay, in group 2, for instance, what do we have? A customer like this specific color, the pricing is right, but do you have anything similar in that group? So here is the list. So you can just chat with that chatbot and interact with that database. Here is another. So fabricators keep emailing me and asking me, Habib, can you send us the picture of a project with this specific slab? We want to send it to our clients. And so I did this with the WhatsApp because I would say 80-90% of fabricators in our industry are Brazilian, and all of them are on WhatsApp. And so WhatsApp has one extra feature, which is you can create buttons, you can create lists in there. Anyhow, so here I'm using AI. So you can say, send me a picture of, let's say, ocean blue. Here's the example. And so it goes to ChatGPT, well, GPT, and it understands the color. There's a database, match it with that, and goes to the database and then sends you the project pictures. And the good thing, it's not like in the past, we used to tell our customers, send a specific word so that triggers something. But now, so the AI understands the whole language. You don't have to tell them, send me like this specific word so that it gives you like, let's say, a catalog or something like that. So now it understands. Here the example I have, send me pics of ocean blue. Another like, can you provide me a picture of ocean blue? So it understands. You can say it in a different way. Well, you can say it this way. And it's surprising to myself because ChatGPT understands all languages. So if you even ask it in Spanish, it does understand it, goes and interacts with it. And the funny thing is that in my database, there is absolutely no Spanish word. So when ChatGPT goes to the database of the images, there is no Spanish word. It's just ocean blue, but it translated the background. So what is this one? So this is interacting with our customers. So it's saying that, okay, are you open today? Or what, should I make an appointment? Pretty much customer service, you know? So it's again the text and the frequent question that we get, what's the comparison between quartz and porcelain, for instance? Here you go. So my advanced AI can answer that. Yeah, so the customer is asking, should I make an appointment? And it's explaining that you're open, this on that time, you click on this the link and make an appointment. So this is another one for my driver. So I don't want to, I hate do repetitive work, and especially I hate doing things that are not worth my time. And I hate just call my driver, hey, can you do it today? You have to go here, all of that. So automation. So I'm sending, so that's our database, and then I send a text, the address, everything, what he needs to deliver at that day, and then he would just press one of those buttons. He can do it, he cannot, he's sick, he's this and that. So I know, and then it goes to the database. update our database, and then it texts me or email me, so I know what's the plan for the day. This is an image that has been generated with AI, and I don't know to what extent you guys are familiar with all these tools. Midjourney, any of you have heard of that? Excellent. All right, so Midjourney is a tool that I'm using here, and what it does, you prompt the text, you explain it, and you imagine a room full of people doing this and that, and it generates the image for you. So here, I'm imagining we sell kitchen cabinet. So I'm imagining a kitchen, like a futuristic kitchen, and what I'm telling the story here is that it doesn't matter in the future, technology, whatever, but still you want that beautiful Italian stone for your kitchen. So that's the story we're using for our marketing. And DALL-E 3, which is another tool, I thought you guys all know, but so this is a new tool that just released a few hours ago, and it's another tool from OpenAI, which created ChatGPT. And so here I'm actually a legacy place.
Is that legacy place?
Yes. And also this one is What's Next AI, so it's a poster for our meeting here. Adam, that's for you.
All right.
And more posters for today, Alex. And you see how beautiful is that? You can just generate that. If you have a designer, you just grab that, put it in Illustrator, Photoshop, whatever, just change the text here and there, boom, you're ready to go. Oh, sorry. Okay, another you want to do is sales poster, and in this case, the fireplace round we do. So it generates in a few seconds. I'll just say, can you generate? If you want to start a new company and you need a logo, just ask DALL-E or generative AI image generator. So here you can see an example of logo. And this one, if you're a software engineer and a UX designer, interface designer, you can just say, so this one I asked, can you design an interface for a realtor, an app that helps a realtor? And as you can see, it came up with the design, and you can turn that into a useful design.
That's great.
That's what I have for now.
Well, that's great. So I do have a follow-up.
Okay.
You said it takes a few seconds. Is that for a novice like me that can hardly work the computer, or did you have to set up your databases to accept chat GPT, and did you have to load up all your pictures, or is it pulling the pictures from some other?
For the
web?
app, I would say it's a little more advanced. Obviously, you need to go and register the app within Facebook, this and that. Probably it's a little harder, but I'm not a software engineer, obviously. And I'm using low-code and no-code platforms that I'm a designer, like I design experience. I can connect all these APIs and all these tools, and I'm a solution architect.
Yeah.
I see what needs to be solved, and I go out and see what we have out there to bring everything together. So yeah, there are some platforms that I use to connect, but you need to be a little technical, obviously.
Yeah. And my other question is, was it difficult to get your employees and clients to adopt it or adapt to it?
That's a very good question. Yes.
Yes.
If he was going to say no, we're all like, okay.
So I think, yeah, I mean, very soon I realized, I mean, with my experience at BH+A, I was in charge of teaching all the architects how to use Revit, which is the main software over there. Very soon I realized I have to make it extremely easy, and the theory actually says perception of usefulness and perception of ease of use. These two are the main factor for people to adapt to new technology. So that's my philosophy. So that's why I'm using text, which is the easiest thing. They don't need to do anything, just text. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, at the beginning, I had tried to need an app. But soon I realized that's not going to work. It needs to be extremely easy, extremely accessible, and that's what I'm doing.
Good. Well, thank you. So now I'm going to open it up to the panel, and if anybody wants to chime in on how their industry is using AI for good or bad, I'd like to hear that. I have some of my own opinions, but I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah, I mean, HR has definitely jumped into this space, and we've been using it for recruiting for quite a while, and now onboarding and really automating all the things that we don't want to do, all the administrative back-end things that didn't really add much value, and at the same time, keeping a focus on the human piece of it, so it doesn't feel like everything is technology focused. So, and now we're facing a different dilemma, I think we all are, right? Which is the pace of the change in technology and then the skill gap. And so there's like all these layers from where I sit in terms of what HR is responsible for and influencing in the workplace, which is our own fear of AI, and will it take away our jobs? I think no, because there's a lot of work to be done in HR that is not related to this. But so there's that fear. Then there's the fear of the unknown, and how will people use it inside of an organization, and what are the ethical implications of that? And then just kind of trying to bring the general population up to speed. I mean, I loved your question about how, were your employees and clients resistant? So you have, then you have to deal with that, right? So for us at NARA, we're looking at programming for HR professionals specifically to make sure that they know what is out there, how to use it, what the resources are. But then even internally, we've used it for job descriptions and other things for our small team. So I kind of look at it from a broader HR perspective, and then as a CEO of a small business, and trying to automate so that we can do the fun stuff.
That's great. That's great. How about anybody else? Any pitfalls, any cautionary tales about AI?
So AI in the restaurant industry is a kind of a whole new world. We're having an operators conference next month. We're actually having a whole session on AI in the industry. And you think about it at its base level, calling your pizza place and ordering a pizza. If you know that menu well, the AI machine is going to generate that for you. If you ask the AI generator a lot of questions, it tends to get confused. And then when you get into allergies and all those type of things that go into the safe service of food to different people, that's where it tends to get to be a little dangerous. And that's at its simplest level, never mind automating kitchen operations, et cetera, laying out the kitchen, getting the food out of the kitchen into the customer's hands. So it's definitely a new frontier for restaurateurs.
Any other comments?
I mean, working at a shopping center, I think we're continuously focused on brand awareness, customer capture, whether it's Legacy Place specific or any of our tenant businesses. I mean, it feels like we're utilizing that all day long. And it feels like we have forever, which is kind of nuts, but yeah.
Well, I think it underscores a point that we keep talking about the future of work. We had our conference last week, and someone said, the future's here. We're not talking necessarily about some, 5 or 10 years down the road. It's here, and so an AI is here.
Yep.
So we need to just figure out how to harness it.
Yep.
And that's like technology. Technology just keeps going by leaps and bounds, and you're right. It's here. It's here. All right, I'm going to jump on to the next question now. Ask Adam a question.
Deal me in.
So Adam, your company touches a lot of different types of jobs: production, distribution, retail. I think you even have some food service over there now.
We do.
There's a lot of pressure from wages to the pandemic to hiring as a result of inflation and the pandemic. Has that leveled off? How's the labor market? How do you see things in your business as far as all of those things?
Yeah, I mean, probably goes without saying, 2020 to 2022 was easily the hardest 3-year hiring period we've ever seen and hopefully ever see. It's gotten a little bit easier. We went through a rapid expansion with the opening of our second location, where we went from 35 employees to 70 employees. And that in and of itself, never mind the pandemic, is a major, major challenge. And Steve, I know this hits home for you too. The hospitality sector was absolutely decimated during COVID. There are a lot of really strong legacy hospitality pros who threw their hands up in March and April of 2020 and said, I'm not waiting around for this. I'm not doing this anymore. And they went into tech or life sciences or name your industry, and they never looked back. And so the challenge for operators like Castle Island and operators like members of the MRA, the Massachusetts Brewers Guild, is like, we kind of have to rebuild our hospitality teams just as one piece of our business, kind of from scratch. And that means taking what is, in most cases, a younger demographic and teaching them how to take a customer and make their day incredible. And that seems like a really simple task, but it's not. And that's the challenge that we've had to face is, we can fill roles now, but finding people who are qualified and willing to put in the time to deliver an amazing experience or create incredible beer or do an incredible job selling it or marketing it or running a business is really, really tough, especially when we've got margin pressure because the supply chain disruptions have leveled off and maybe calmed down a bit, but they definitely haven't gone away. Beer is really expensive to make just prima facie, like baseline. And the past few years, it's only gotten more expensive to make. And I know it's painful for everyone when you go out to like the supermarket or the liquor store and a 4-pack of beer is $15, $16, $17. If that beer wasn't $15 or $17 a 4-pack, that brewery wouldn't exist. And it's the same with the $20 hamburger that was $13 in 2019. And the pound of wings that was $12 and is probably now $25. Because the world's just more expensive. And one of the challenges with the labor pool is we can't operate, unfortunately, with a bunch of machines because our product is physical. It's very physical. Whether we're talking about the beer or whether we're talking about pouring a beer and putting it into someone's hand and interacting with them. That's the other key piece that is so essential to our business and to Steve's members' businesses as well is we can't, and this isn't a knock at all, I'm actually jealous that we can't do this. We can't put someone in front of a computer screen and have it spit out a beer and go, hey, tell me about your day. What are your problems? That's what we exist for. And the other big challenge is like remote work. Raise your hand if you work remotely. Keep your hand up if you never want to go back to the office. Yeah, that's pretty much the consensus, right? But like our business, restaurants, we need people to go out. Like, yeah, you can stay home. You don't need to leave. It's a hell of a lot better if you do. Come hang out with us. So those are some of the challenges that we've faced. We have seen at least the wage pressure kind of level off. It's not coming back down for sure. But people understand the sort of new reality that like the margins aren't there to just sort of pay people whatever they want, and it's still a very challenging environment. The way the general economy is trending, it's not looking like it's going to get better anytime soon. So we've definitely seen the wage pressure ease up a bit, but again, the biggest challenge is still finding those super qualified people.
So it's still difficult to find people to hire.
Without a doubt.
Shaking their head.
Without a doubt, especially in hospitality.
Yeah.
Manufacturing for us has actually been a bright spot. Part of that is germane to our industry. We make beer for a living that has a certain sex appeal, if you will, right? It's like we actually recruit most people to start in our packaging line. Like first day on the job production, if you've never worked in a brewery before, you're catching cans off the packaging line because it doesn't require a lot of training. We can put you in there within 30 minutes. You're doing the job pretty much completely. We've hired a bunch of landscapers. One of our most recent hires came from a Benmore paint center. He was operating the shaker, and now he's pulling cans off our line. So like the manufacturing side, we can staff up. Hospitality is where the biggest challenge is. Admin and operations, not so bad. Sales and marketing, also very challenging. Kind of for the same reason that hospitality is. A lot of the people that were selling beer realize that they can go out and sell medical devices. They don't have to work nights. They don't have to work weekends. They have these incredible benefit packages. So that's where the other challenge is.
Great. So let me open it up to the panel. Are you having wage and people issues as well? Anybody want to share their experiences?
I work I run a retail center, and so I think from a property management team perspective, we've been lucky to keep, I would say, our core team throughout COVID and post. But we've also doubled our team size, similar to Adam. We've come with comes with its own set of wins and challenges. But yeah, I would say definitely our traditional retail tenants are having a very tough time hiring, retaining top talent. It's just they've moved on to different things and figured out another way to make income.
Is it a wage issue or is it the people aren't there?
I think a mix of both. I mean, we just made an offer to somebody on our property team who was asking for an astronomical, for what I think is an astronomical amount of a starting salary coming out of college. She just graduated in May and wanted something that I'm like, I didn't see that. Maybe I'm dating myself. I didn't see those numbers until I moved to New York. And so, yeah, I would say the wage is definitely a factor, but I also think there's a strong group of people that used to work that now don't want those roles,
Right.
and the responsibility and the hours and
And the lack of flexibility,
Yep, the
right?
lack
I mean,
of
you see
flexibility.
in teachers too. It's
Yeah.
like you can't work
Yeah.
from home.
Nope.
So there's certain things that certain professions or
Yeah.
in retail, if you want them, if they're going to be in the store or
Yeah.
at the restaurant or
Yeah.
in front of customers,
Yeah, they don't want it.
They don't want it. Yeah. So they're working, but just somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Stephen, in your industry, what are you seeing? Same kind of things, or is it?
Hiring has come back a little bit. Remember, we basically laid off our entire industry on March 17th, 2020. We laid off 85% of the industry. A lot of people could go out and do other jobs. They could drive for Uber. They could deliver for Amazon. They could go to a warehouse. A lot of different competition in that space. We've started to see more and more people come back to the hospitality industry. There's a natural allure to it. People like it. You can actually grow in the industry pretty strongly with very minimal education. You don't need a Harvard MBA to run a restaurant. You can actually grow in the industry. And so the benefits of what we have of an industry is starting to come back. Additionally, we tend to do really well with people that pick up second jobs. We have great mother's hours, et cetera. So people that are looking for second jobs, as the economy gets more as the cost of living gets more expensive, and you have student loan repayments starting back up, you're seeing people saying, hey, I need to pick up a couple extra shifts. I need to grab a couple hours. So it's still a struggle, but hiring is getting better. Wage pressures is still the same. I don't know if that Massachusetts is a relatively small state, but there's a big difference between Boston and Springfield. And so the wage pressures that are happening across the state are a little different, but Boston wages are through the roof. They're talking right now about a $20 minimum wage. Most people are at $18, $19 as it is. Not that we're advocating for that legislation at all, but the broader conversation that's there, we're already there, and most places are getting there. So.
What about back of the house professional staff, like the chefs, and are those hard to?
Extremely hard. Extremely hard.
I can imagine. All right, let's see what's next. I think I'm going to go.
You have a feel-good one in there?
Yeah. We can bring it back up.
I would like to.
We'll get the positivity back up.
But it's what's next. So we're trying to get the past and then look into the future. So, Tracy, this one's yours. I'm going to start out with the pandemic again.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Then we gotta go.
Can you share how the HR perspective has changed
Sure.
with things like the family medical leave that came up in Massachusetts, or the 4-day work week, or the work from home, or work come into the office? How has that worked, and where do you see that in the next now compared to how it's been the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think that if I take one sort of context, which is the HR profession in and of itself, was impacted by the pandemic in that things became very personal, right? And so, HR, we have like a little box that you draw around what you talk about and what you don't talk about, and some of it's compliance driven, and some of it is just sort of, basic common sense, right? And COVID blew that out the window. And the reason that that's important for an HR perspective is that impacted managers. and then that impacted employees. So it became really evident early on that where you had really good managers and where you didn't have such great managers, and their ability to kind of navigate the nuances that were very different than they were before. And so that was a piece of HR. And then it was all about people, right? So everyone in the C-suite is looking, or small business, doesn't matter where you were, you're looking at HR, if you had it, to say, okay, what the heck are we going to do now, right? What's the strategy? How do we, we sent everyone home on March 17th, now we want them back, or we need some of them back. And so we've been dealing with that space for a long time, and then the impact of mental health and all of that. So from an HR professional perspective, a lot of burnout, a lot of scope creep, right? The jobs have really expanded. And so I don't see that necessarily changing in the short term. I think from an employment standpoint, there's still a couple of big things that are hanging out there. So the big impact on culture in terms of being in person versus, and the ability to be in person. So there's the work that needs to be done, but then I think we kind of proved that a lot of that could be done remotely. And so now employers are having a hard time convincing employees to come back, because it's certainly not back 5 days a week. If you're going to go that route and you didn't have, you have a really strong argument for that one. But the tug around that and the tension is it's still very much an employee market, right? They can kind of write their ticket. And yet you have a business to run. And you won't have a business if you don't have employees. So you have to make some accommodations, but the nuances around that are still very tricky. So they had been in COVID, maybe not as much before, but definitely moving forward. The way the work gets done, I think, is again tied to that, and sort of rethinking what really has to get done, what could be automated, what can we just not do altogether, what could be done remotely, and really almost starting from scratch. So when you think about rehiring your hospitality folks and looking at those job descriptions, is it the same profile as it was 3 years ago, or is it a little different because you're looking for maybe a higher touch than you did before? Your expectations might be a little bit different, but maybe there's things you can take off of that job description. So that's a big piece of it. And there was a third, now I can't remember. I think I would reinforce the management training piece, because that, for me, was such a glaring thing that came up right away, was the manager's ability. So there's kind of this trust piece and this relationship that we all know is important, but in COVID, if you didn't have that already as a leader or as an employee looking at your leader, then you're probably in a pretty bad spot. And so now, not only is that important, but it's more important, because that's going to be your retention piece. And then, so if you're asking me to come back because you don't trust me to work at home, and that's the only reason you have. Somebody at our conference last week said there's this new, it's like a Roomba, and you can put your computer mouse on it, and it will move. So I was like, no, you're kidding. They're like, no, seriously. I mean, come on, guys, But so there's things like that don't help.
They're doing that because they're at our bar. That's
Yeah, I know, exactly.
So now what about the Massachusetts law? I think it's a year and a half old.
Sure.
So that gives people 12 weeks off
It does.
to take care of a family member?
Yes. So the other thing, and thank you for reiterating that, because I do think that one of the things that continues to make the job market really tight is that there's so many people that are caretakers. Mm-hmm. And we know that we have child care crisis. So many smaller private child care organizations just went away because it wasn't worth it for them anymore. And so people are making choices about staying home with the kids and taking care of others. And so, yes, I think so we have to be flexible, I guess is my short answer to that, and creative, because if you force them into a situation that they're having to make choices, then they're probably going to choose the family versus a job, career, money, what have you. The laws are, let me just tell you what you all know. It's not easy to do business in Massachusetts, right? It's not easy to do business. And I run a small business, so I know that. And while from an HR perspective, perhaps there's some things that are good, it's very employee focused, and it's super expensive. And so I think that the leave, perhaps on the surface, intention is good, I'm not seeing it play out. It's confusing. We had laws that changed Monday night, and we had a session on Tuesday morning, and our attorneys were sending an updated deck. And it's confusing. I have a partner at Cyfarth saying, okay, guys, I'm going to just tell you what I think this means. And so it's really, it can get confusing. So, you got to have some tools around, some HR support and compliance support so you don't get in trouble, but it's definitely not easy. And you can always call NARA.
So thank you.
And also don't forget on that the rate went up.
The rate went up,
The first year
yeah.
the rate went down because the take-up rate wasn't that high, and then people found out about it, and there's ways that they can get more than 12 weeks if,
Yeah.
depending on what you're going out for. The rate went up pretty significantly. That was announced a couple weeks ago. So,
Yeah,
and
so-
that's not going to go down again. That's
Right.
just going to continue to go up
goes
as the
up, it
take-up rate
goes up.
continues to happen.
How about the rest of the panel? How's your industry handling some of the HR issues she brought up?
We have started at 2020, so I don't have a reference before that. So I think everything is getting better. So for me, okay, it's getting better. But I mean, it was a huge change for me when I was an employee working at DHA, all educating people, and then now I'm dealing with, I don't know how to put it, like my driver and other people. It's a different culture.
Right.
So I had that difficulty to kind of connect to them, but then I kind of grew up, I learned how to connect to them and kind of motivate them. It was a great experience. But it's still, obviously, I have a lot of questions. How do you look for a player driver, or you're like, okay, I just need a driver.
You need a
Just
driver.
driver.
So, or no, like if you are looking for managers, definitely is a huge difference if you have a player manager, but how about your driver? It seems obviously the features that you're looking in, those kind of people are consistency and being, just showing up.
Mhm.
Just show up, and it seems that that's all you can expect. I don't know. I don't really have that much of experience. I need to learn from you guys.
Great, thank you. So, last question on this topic. Are you seeing that you have to provide more PTO, or are people looking for 4-hour work weeks? Are they looking for benefits and more vacation and things like that? More than wages or equal to wages? Or is it easier to hire people with some of the issues that are out there with leave and PTO and things like that?
I see people looking for higher wages.
It's
Yeah.
mostly wage driven.
Yep, mostly wages.
Ours was wage driven for a while. I mean, let's face it, they want it all.
Yeah.
Ours was wage driven for a while. Again, for us, that's kind of eased a little bit. As that has eased and as people have kind of settled into the new reality that like the wages aren't going to go up like they may want them to, that's where we're seeing more demand on the benefit side.
Yeah.
We actually expanded our PTO policy in the middle of the pandemic as a gesture of goodwill. And we've always operated as like hey, work when you need to work as long as the work gets done and it gets done right and on time. And so we have the ability, because of the way that we built our culture, that we can expand that PTO, and it might cost us a little bit financially, but in terms of productivity, it costs us nothing.
Yeah.
And that's working pretty well.
Okay.
I think it was a bit of a wake-up call for the restaurant industry that they had to reevaluate, not necessarily their wages, but the benefits that they offered their employees. You have more and more operators looking into 401k plans and employee wellness plans and all of those employee benefits that weren't necessarily a hallmark of the restaurant industry. A lot of operators did offer those, but by and large they were not there. And you're now competing with other restaurateurs and other industries, so you have to make the job look better than what it is. And so it was a number of benefits have come out of that. I think as a whole for the good, but it does drive up the cost of operating the restaurant. But it was a wake-up call for our industry.
Well, thank you for that. Stephen, you're up next.
Okay.
All right. So, what lessons have the operators learned from the pandemic that are moving forward?
I'm not supposed to say this out loud, but Adam said don't open, but no. Please don't record that. So look, when the restaurant industry, when it came back from the pandemic, a lot of different changes happened in the industry. We had outdoor dining. We had takeout and delivery was a hallmark of the pandemic. Surprisingly, that hasn't gone away. So those percentages have actually stayed relatively high, where now you're having restaurants that are reconfiguring kitchen space and reconfiguring operational systems to drive that takeout and delivery piece. And I think people thought that was going to go away. Same thing, outdoor dining was super popular, continues to be popular. The weather this summer wasn't great. I think it rained 8 Saturdays in a row. But, it was unheard of that you would sit outside and have a beer in April in Massachusetts. We really didn't have a lot of outdoor dining options, and that has really not gone away, and people are okay with it. They'll sit under a heat lamp. They will go out in October. They'll go out in November. So those haven't really gone away from the restaurant industry. In terms of the overall industry health, it all depends on when you're having the conversation. I think right now we've kind of flattened out a little bit. Federal dollars have dried up, both in terms of availability to small business, but also in consumers' pockets. Most people have spent that money that they got during the pandemic. They started to spend down those savings. So you are starting to see a bit of a flattening in the industry. By and large, profitability is down across the board because costs are up. On a positive side, as Adam kind of alluded to, there's very few places where you can go out and get human interaction. We do our grocery shopping online. We do our shopping online. We're not leaving our house for anything. We literally go to breweries and restaurants and chamber events. Like, that's the extent of what we're doing.
And Legacy Place.
And Legacy Place. Of course.
I got you.
Absolutely. But, so we do have that going for us, that people still crave human interaction, and they need to have it. We talk about the work week and where people are working from. You are seeing more of development of suburban restaurants because people are home. We kicked around the idea of launching a go back to lunch program because everyone's working from home. You're talking to the dog. You still need to go out and talk to someone. Go out for an hour, go out to lunch, enjoy a restaurant. Getting people out of the house. You might not be meeting with people that you're working with, but if there's other people in your neighborhood that are out there not working, go out and have lunch together. The other change in the restaurant industry is historically restaurateurs always worked their fingers to the bone, and they still do, but they always thought they had to be open all the time. And I think they've realized that they're maximizing the times that are profitable, and they're not opening up the times that are not. So you're seeing less and less lunch spots. You're seeing restaurants close earlier, especially in the suburbs. That second level of dining hasn't really come back. And so, but operators are kind of working smarter, not harder. They're recognizing, like, listen, I'm going to make the same amount of money and I can make the operations work if I cut some shifts. And some of that was driven by staffing, but then they recognize that, look, I don't have to do this. Whereas the mindset for years was be open all the time because a customer might come in. So I think that's a major change that we're seeing as well.
So is it easier to get a late reservation now?
No, because it's closed.
Right?
So that's good. Now,
Yeah.
is the type of restaurant that's opening changed? Is it more upscale, or like you said, takeout is more popular?
Takeout is certainly more popular. Quick serve restaurants is the fastest growing segment of the industry, where there's limited labor and you're ordering directly from the counter. That's the fastest growing type of restaurant. We closed. A lot of restaurants were closed during the pandemic. What you're seeing is a lot of legacy restaurants where maybe the second generation doesn't want to take over the restaurant. They're starting to sell. You had people that made it through the pandemic, but they're like, you know what, I can't do this again. They're starting to sell. And we're an industry that has high turnover anyway. There's a lot of restaurants that open and close, and that's the natural flow of the restaurant industry. But you are seeing, we were talking earlier, but the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission says that applications are a record high. Cities and towns say applications are high. So more and more restaurants are coming in. Again, with all the negative talk we've talked about, there's still a demand, there's still an allure to the restaurant industry to make that happen. And on a per location basis, we are actually up on location, total locations in Massachusetts than we were in March of 2020. So we have technically come back, but we have more restaurants today than we did then.
And people are going out to restaurants.
People are absolutely going out to restaurants. For a long time, they've been willing to pay the higher prices that have been coming with dining. I don't know if this is reflective of the overall economy, but it is softer in the last quarter. Optimism is high for 2024, especially in the city. When you're at a hotel, where do you eat? You eat at a restaurant. Hotel reservations are up for 2024. Conventions are supposed to be up in the city. So the demand for restaurants, I think, is going to be there, but we are in a little bit of there was a projected softening in Q3 and Q4, and I think we're feeling that right now, where people tend to be dining out less. I had an executive committee meeting yesterday, that, always lead off with how's business, and it was, ugh. And I had the same thing with Adam this afternoon. He walked in, I said, how? He goes, ugh. So right now we're in a little bit of a softening. I think it's not a long-term impact on the economy if you look at the different projections, but right now that's the feeling in the industry today.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, we see it in the beer business. We kind of see it on two fronts because we see it in our tap rooms where we sell direct to consumer, and we see it through our wholesale business because we sell to all of Steve's members. And so when they're soft, we're soft. When our tap rooms are soft, we're doubly. And one thing that, at least in our industry, and I see it too on the restaurant side of things, that's become really critical is establishing a strong brand. Because before COVID, people were out, they were spending money, times were high, and you could kind of get away by flying by the seat of your pants a little more. And that's not the case. There are 240 breweries in the state, 18,000 restaurants in the state. You really got to make a mark and stand out. And it's hard when you're in the beer business or the restaurant industry because there's a ton of competition. And it's hard to, I don't want to call either of them commodities because they're not, but it's really critical to establish that brand.
Great. So for the panel, you got something to say to that?
Yeah, I just want to say, I have over 20 businesses, food and beverage businesses at Legacy Place, and hats off to you guys. They are truly leading the way at Legacy. I can't speak for everywhere else in Massachusetts, but you guys, people want to be out. Whether it's outdoor dining, whether it's fast casual, whether it's the Cavas and the Sweet Greens and the Shake Shacks, they are truly leading the way. So excited to see what happens. I hope we did, I hear you on the sentiment of Q3 being a little soft, but excited for, holiday and to see where that goes and holiday parties. I mean, people, we have 2 restaurants that are completely booked out for holiday parties. So just excited to see what's to come. But I can't speak for everything, but at Legacy Place, the restaurants are truly back, and it's amazing to see. Just the growth month over month is awesome. And we're trying to bring Adam in, so we'll see.
Great. So
we'll be there this weekend.
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
We're there this weekend.
They're coming. They're a guest spot at our fall pumpkin patch event on Saturday. So if anyone's out, bring the kiddos. There's going to be lots of pumpkins and beer and rain.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
So for the panel, Stephen talked about some permanent changes. Does anybody want to share some of the permanent changes that you have seen? Some of the good things that have changed for the better for your industry?
I can go. I think just for Legacy Place, we're really focused on the experience that the customer has. It's not traditional retail. It's not just I'm going to a restaurant and I'm going home. It's truly making the place that they're going a place that they want to be and a place that they want to stay at. So just really looking at, if it is expanding outdoor dining, if it is creating moments of pause where people can kind of pause on property with seating, green spaces, games, outdoor events. It's really a combination of all of those types of things. So I think we'll continue to get experiential as we go, offering more entertainment, fitness, a real kind of 360 approach as to why people come to the property.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 2. So
Sure.
you mentioned a second ago that
Yeah.
people want to be out.
They do, yeah.
The other
Yeah.
key part of that
Yeah.
is people want to be outside.
Yes, they do.
It's
yes.
amazing.
Yes.
I know you guys
Yeah.
see it too. And restaurants and breweries, distilleries, and wineries have been operating on the outdoor dining extension, which we'll see what happens next spring, whether it stays around or goes away. But the bell has been rung. People want to be outside, and God bless it. We're in Massachusetts. We get 5 good months of weather. Let's enjoy it as much as we can. That's awesome to see. It really is. It's a very kind of European experience, but let's make it our own. The second thing, and this is maybe a little more germane to our business, but with all of these supply chain pressures that we felt, watching the P&L and really watching our margins and rationalizing all of our spending was absolutely critical to the point where the nuclear team that was doing it pre-COVID wasn't enough to do it post-COVID. So we've decentralized a lot of those responsibilities and a lot of that knowledge and a lot of that decision making and spread that across our team. And so we have, fairly young, fairly inexperienced people who are gaining financial literacy and understanding how a business actually operates on paper and putting that into place. And what we've seen come out of that is decision making that, like, the things that used to keep me up at night as an owner and as a CEO, I don't worry about anymore, because someone a level or two or even three down the ladder is now making those same decisions. And that, again, might just be an us thing, but the enormity of those pressures was so large that we didn't have a choice but to say, all right, I can't do this alone. You help me. Let me teach you what I know, and let's do this together. It's really cool.
Are you guys seeing that in your industries, that a lot of that is happening and it's getting decentralized, and it's great?
It makes the work more interesting.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait until you have a certain title
Yeah.
in order to get exposure to the inner workings of the business, right? And you feel empowered.
I think it's more meaningful too. We've had a lot of people, and our staff is young. Our average age is probably 27, 28. And we are teaching these people, P&Ls. Some of them don't have college degrees, and if they do, they're probably like art history or something like that. So we're starting with, nothing, and we're teaching them these skills, and they're coming to me and they're like, this is really cool. I never thought I'd get a chance to do this. And that to me is mind-blowing, because my perspective is like,
It's not stuff.
who wants to be a bean counter, right? But all these people want this. It's really awesome.
Great. Okay, moving on to Sue. You're the only one that hasn't spoken about legacy, about your industry yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of stuff is happening over there. New stores, new
Yeah.
restaurants,
Yep.
lots of stuff. Is the reason for that because the people have changed their habits in retail?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's, the natural turn that I think occurred during the pandemic that, we all experienced. I also think to my previous point, if people want to be out, they want to be outside, they want to be doing things. They were cooped up for however long during the pandemic, and we've really seen a strong comeback of people coming to property, whether it's, to grab a beer, to grab lunch, to grab groceries, and they're truly spending more time than ever on property. Excuse me. And I think we've really focused on, how do we attract customers to the property, truly keep them here and keep them engaged and keep them coming back and back and back and returning and returning. Something that we actually just launched a little more, not even a year ago, was a co-working space called Industrious, which is the co-working space that's kind of similar to where we work. It's a little different, but it really has attracted the back to work crowd, and it's one of their fastest growing locations that they've opened in however many years, and it's really kind of a testament to people aren't going back to work in the city. They're in the suburbs. At Legacy Place, we're truly in the heart of Dedham, right off 95. And there's nothing more that brings a smile to my face than seeing the parked parking lots that are every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's interesting. We also just had Jordan's Furniture open, an extension of their corporate office at Legacy Place. So we all know Elliot from the commercials. He brought his marketing team, his e-com team, his IT team over, and they're expanding into our space, and are just like thrilled that they can, go to work. They can go to a Pure Barre class after. They can go to Whole Foods and grab groceries. They can meet their boyfriend at Temescal for drinks and kind of then go home, and then come back on the weekends to see a movie and do whatever. But it's grown to this place that's not just, oh, I'm going to go to the Gap and grab a sweater. It's been great. So excited to see where we go. We're continuously adding some additional entertainment options to kind of build on that. But yeah, I would say our tenancy definitely has evolved, but it's been amazing so far. So we'll see where we go. But
So has that been a result of internet shopping, or does internet shopping affect your tenants?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think we all still shop online. I know I do, but I'm also shopping at a lot of our tenants and their businesses. People I think are still coming in and want to come into the store for a true experience, whether you're going to Apple to learn about the new MacBook or get the new phone. You're going to Nike to try on the shoes because you don't know what size shoe you are in the new shoe that dropped. But you also could be going to, another retailer and grabbing something that you bought online and you're picking up in store and just grabbing it off the rack, in a little shopping bag that says raw, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a mixture of both. But I don't think that the internet shopping has really impacted us in a negative way. We even had, I mean, Amazon, you know, is now inside Whole Foods, and like traffic that has brought to Legacy Place is unbelievable.
I was
Yeah.
going to talk about Amazon and Barnes and Noble replacing the Amazon store,
Yeah.
which I think
Yeah.
is pretty incredible.
Yeah, the Barnes and Noble store, like it's, you got. I mean, I have a soft spot for a bookstore, but yeah, it feels magical. Like, who goes to a bookstore? But like, you walk in there and you're like, oh my god, like it's awesome, and they're doing well. They're doing really, really well. But the Amazon bookstore, you know, they chose to move on to do different things. But yeah.
Great. So that's the last of the questions for each of you individually, but I do have a couple of panel questions to continue with. So what are you most excited about in your industry, and what do you see as next? I'm going to start at this end this time.
Sure. Well, as I listen to my fellow panelists, the thing that comes up for me is the employee experience, because it's the lens that I look at things. And we've been talking about that from an HR perspective for quite a while now. But it really does, it mirrors what you're talking about in that. And so focusing more on what is the experience that an employee has when they come on board, and not just those first 90 days, but the interactions that they have. Do they feel like they belong? How easy is it to do the work? How easy is it to connect with others? Do I have growth opportunity? Like all of those things you can bucket into the employee experience. And we all know that happy employees make happy customers, right? So that's super important. I think rethinking that, and we've gone from foosball tables and beer, which is great, but you can't just do those two things, right? You have to have all the other pieces really need to be in place and in consideration of the whole person. And so, people, caretakers, whether you have small kids or aging parents or a spouse or whatever, have going on in your life, or frankly, you just have interests outside of work. Oh my God, So, I think that's what excites me, and I think the thing that that sort of sits with me a little bit about the future is a lot around AI and technology and the pace of technology, and being able to keep up with that, both as business leaders, but also in training up staff. And what do we, how do you choose what to focus on from a technology standpoint? Like, where are the pain points, and then you decide to do that, and then you get them all trained up, and then does that take too long, and then that technology is already obsolete? So it's from a employment standpoint or employer standpoint, it's trying to figure out the time and investment, because there's such a huge skill gap. We know that. It's a huge, huge skill gap, and that's not going away.
Right.
That is not going. The numbers are just,
That's great.
getting bigger.
Stephen, how about you? What do you think is most exciting about your industry right now, and what's next?
I mean, the restaurant industry is the most exciting industry. There's no other place where you take a raw product and you put some seasoning in it, you throw it on the stove, and you create an unbelievable experience for whoever's ordering it. And I was building to beers and cocktails as well. But I mean, the creativity that comes with preparing that product and what goes into it, there's always innovations, there's always changing, the experience is always being reimagined. And we talk about the social media and cameras. What other industry, aside from your stuff, people definitely taking photos, but what other industry do people take a picture of what they've ordered and share it before they take a bite of it? And like that's exciting in that how awesome the restaurant industry is to bring people together, nourishment, enjoying that experience. It's always exciting. It's always a good thing. So that's, and of course, enjoying beers with those products as well and making it happen.
Icing on the cake.
Exactly. Exactly.
Adam, what do you think?
Honestly, I think for me, what has me most excited is the thought that, I guess, like, from the ashes rises a phoenix, right? Like, after COVID, our industry and our partners in the restaurant industry, I'm sorry to keep pointing to Steve, but we work so closely with restaurants across the Commonwealth, like that, they are our lifeblood. And on top of that, I'm a sucker for bars and restaurants because that human interaction factor. You're going to see breweries and distilleries and wineries and restaurants and bars get better Because they're going to have to. If they want to survive, they're going to have to get better. And so if you think about the best dining experience or the best bar experience that you've ever had, that's going to get better. And the mediocre ones, some of them are going to get better, some of them aren't. They're not going to make it. That's reality. It stinks, but that's the world. But it's going to be better. So yeah, a little bit of a tough time behind, well, a lot of bit of a tough time behind us, a little bit of a tough time at the moment. But I'm excited because that means opportunity, it means growth, it means progress. And to me, that gets me fired up.
Great. Habib, what do you think?
So here, today I'm representing Morva, which is a your stone supplier. And as I said, we started 2022, so we are just growing. And we are, regardless of what market is doing, we are growing. But on the AI side, I think we need to pay more attention to that because I think AI is a lot bigger than what we think. I think it's as huge as internet, and and the speed of growth is so fast that right now it's hard to imagine. But like in a few years, if we have robots sitting here, it's not out of it's happening like right now. Elon Musk is working on the robots, and the brain is already here. ChatGPT already here, and so I think huge changes are coming.
How about you down the end?
I would say I'm most excited for just to see how the retail landscape continues to evolve. We've seen and are about to see some brands that were primarily internet and web-based only, expanding into brick and mortar, All Modern being one of them last year, one of Wayfair's first brick and mortar store brands, and then we have Garnet Hill launching next year. So we're just excited to see some of the online businesses realize that they want a touch point for customers, and to see how that evolves. Excited for that.
That's great.
Yep.
That is almost the last question. The last question is going to be, is there anything else you want to add? Anything I didn't ask you? Anything you want to say to the people here? Not that you have to, but
We're open till 9 tonight.
that's a good one.
It's a good one to end on.
So that's the end of our discussion, but I want to open it to you folks if you have any questions for anybody specifically. Raise your hand and we can answer those questions. We got one right
I
here.
just want to make a general comment to all panelists. You guys have been fantastic, and I just want to say that there was a lot of conversation about COVID tonight, and I think that if it highlighted anything to everyone is that no matter how many Amazons or how convenient things are, you can't replace the human interaction factor, which all of you guys represent. I know that I hated being at home. It felt like a prison. I'm blessed to be able to work with people, a lot of people. Like, I love that. I'm happy to be out there, and I think that all of your companies will ultimately succeed because we're social animals. Like, we can't be isolated. And I think Legacy Place is great because it does bring people together. The breweries in the middle of Boston, I mean, it's a happening place. It's great to see more and more restaurants come to Boston. Actually, you can't make a reservation anywhere, so maybe it has to do with, I don't know what's going on with the economy, but maybe it has to do with like staff shortages. But I mean, it's just every time we want to go out with friends, you have to make reservations way in advance. So I think that will never go away, and people will come back. They'll, so.
There's something contagious about it, I think, that is, people want to be part of something good. As much as, we've all been...
They want to feel good about something.
Right.
It's a very basic human desire.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Sometimes we maybe overcomplicate it a little bit,
Oh,
but
yeah.
the reality is, it is... and to do it in a way that's meaningful for you as an individual, right? Not to have someone dictate that you have to be in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever that is, but to be able to have some freedom to carve that out for yourself in a way that, I love you. I would not probably want to work with a bunch of people 5 days a week, right? Having said that, I want to work with people sometimes, and so to have that flexibility, I think, is really important, and not just spread everything like peanut butter, like sometimes we do from a workplace perspective, because we're worried about equity and all of that is important, don't get me wrong. But also like the human piece of it, we're human beings, and tapping into that is a bigger lift than it was for us before the pandemic, but it's worth it. It's worth it. For sure.
Any other questions? There has to be one more question. Oh, we have one in the back.
We find like the workforce, like the younger generation, is harder to train because maybe social media and the phones and things like that become distractions. Because I know going to grocery stores and using personal checkout, like that personal interaction isn't always there with the younger generation. Like the conversation or the small talk or, hey, it's raining out today. Like there's none of that. It's how are you? They scan your items and when they hand you the receipt, like they have a harder time generating that. Do you find that it's harder in your industry, especially where maybe the cap for what you're able to offer somebody starting out for pay? Is that harder for you to find people for that?
It's a really good question. And as I mentioned before, we have a super young staff, so this is a challenge we deal with all the time. We've sort of opted to not let it be a challenge, let it be a strength. It's zebra can't change the stripes, right? So the idea that we're going to pull these people off of their phones or off of social media or off of SMS, whatever they're doing, is to a large degree unrealistic. Instead, we want to reframe it as how do we structure their roles and their expectations and responsibilities so that there's still time for work and everything's still getting done right, we can still train them. And that in and of itself is a little bit of a challenge. But if we said like, phones go away, right? Like we're locking up your phone when you're coming in.
Yeah,
We wouldn't have anyone. I wouldn't be able to work there. And so we found ways to fit it into people's lives. And when it comes to training, what we've seen is not like, okay, first you put your phone down, then you start operating the canning line. What we found is like that younger generation really wants a sense of purpose and they really want a sense of meaning. And yeah, money's important because we've all got bills to pay, but they want to feel like if they're showing up for work, and again, for us, work is in person across the board, they want to know that it's for a reason. And that has given us the ability to connect with them on a deeper level where they actually just put the phone away because now they can.
I have a slight concern about the younger generation working from home. I think the pandemic has proven, and again, I represent an industry where everyone is not working at home. This is just a broader conversation on the economy. The pandemic has proven that you can do your job from home, but can you get your next job from home? So you're not building a network. You're not out network building people. You're not going out grabbing a drink in the city after work. You're on your computer. You're going home. Maybe you go to the gym, what have you. You're not building those business networks that you need when you're 22, 23, 24, 25 to go get your second and third job. So I have concerns of what's going to happen in the next couple of years when everyone that is working from home right now says, oh, I want to do something else, and they're not going to know how to go about doing it. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges we're going to have to deal with in any industry. That's one of my concerns.
I think that's a great point, and one of the components of that we've been thinking about is how you learn from other people. So if you're working from home full time, how much are you able, other than your Zoom meetings with other people, how much are you able to learn all the little things that you do from your boss, good or bad, right? All the subtleties around managing a meeting and body language and all of the things that you learn when you're in the office. And so I think that's a piece of it that we're not probably talking about enough in terms of training and training up this next generation of leaders is how do we can't really replace that with AI, right? But how do we account for that gap?
Who's your mentor?
Who's your mentor? Yeah.
Who's going to help you get that?
Yep.
Okay.
We have
With
one other
that,
job over here.
oh, we have one more question.
How old do you have to be to work at a brewery? Because I have 17-year-old twins that could have a sense of purpose.
Legally in the state of Massachusetts, 18. Castle Island has an internal policy, you need to be 21 years old. Because we want everyone who is capable and interested to be able to participate in enjoying the fine beverages we make.
Internships, maybe?
Yeah.
Internships?
Yep. We can talk about that.
I have two teenagers that can do it.
Well, I want to thank all of these panelists for joining us tonight. And if you I want to invite
up here.
Yeah, and thank Rob for doing a great job moderating. This was great. You all did a great job. Very informative, fascinating. Really appreciate you all spending your time and your expertise with us. Also, again, want to thank our sponsors, One Local Bank, Mass General Brigham, Rockland Trust, and Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lehane. Thank you all for your support. We can't put an event like this together without help from our member volunteers. So we had a committee that helped bring all this together. Raise your hand if you're on the committee, please be recognized. Thank you. Matt and Darren for the visual effects today. You'll be able to see their work in the next few days. And thank you, Angela, for hosting us in this beautiful establishment. If anybody's looking to book a party, corporate party, family event, she's the person you want to talk to. She'll make it really special, just like she has done tonight. We can stick around. There's more food. The bar is still open. Not open, but there's still Castle Island available. So thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the night.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Tom.
it.
Thanks so much. You guys did a great job. Well, thank you very much.